I am woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman? That's me, Maya Angelou. Welcome to this segment of the Afrocentrist podcast, The Woman, Her Story, and Her Impact, where I get to speak to women from across the globe, sharing their stories and how they are impacting their world. Coming to you every Wednesday, 4 p.m. GST. Of course, with your favorite show host, the energetic EJ. So make it a date with me every Wednesday. The Afrocentrist Podcast, proudly African. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Afrocentrist Podcast and this segment, The Woman, Her Story and Her Impact, where I get to speak to women from across the globe, sharing their stories and how they're currently impacting their world. Today, I have a super special guest. My guest today is Fiona Demark, all the way from Australia, right? She is an inspirational speaker who empowers audiences through a captivating presentation of her personal story of a life lived as a legally blind. She's here to inspire you that even when life serves you lemons, you can still make lemonade. So as you listen to her story, I want you to be inspired to know that if she can, then you can too. So right now, sit back, relax, get your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, or whatever works for you, maybe a bottle of water, and then let's dive into the story of Fiona Demark. All right? See you in a bit with my guest. All right. So, guys, my guest is here, and I am as excited as you to listen to her story. Hi, Fiona. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you. And yourself?
I am well. Thank you so much for asking. So it's such a pleasure. I love the way your profile says it, like, even when life throws you lemons, you can make lemonades, and you're here to inspire us with your story. And we're here for that. Like, this is what we're here for, to get inspired. So I'm going to ask you a fun question first before we dive into your story. Okay. So what is your favorite thing to do in the world?
Favorite thing to do? Oh, my goodness. One favorite?
Yes.
Just one? Oh, my goodness. The list could be huge. Favorite thing. Look, I think if I'm going to cheat. I'm still going to give you two.
No problem. Go ahead.
One would be reading, and the other one would be listening to music. Without either of those things, I think my world would be a very different place. And of course, when I say reading,
music.
Yeah, and both of those are audio because I use audio books all of the time. So, yeah, without either of those things, I'd be very lost.
Oh, wow. What type of music then do you love?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Very, very eclectic music taste. So yeah, like there's not much that I won't listen to for at least a little while. Like even if it's somebody else's choice, usually I'm pretty cool with it.
Have you listened to any Afro beats, any Afro sound?
I have a little bit, yeah, and it's really cool. Yeah.
Nice. That's good to know.
So very eclectic.
Absolutely. All right. So now let's dive into your story. Fiona, what is your story?
So my story is that essentially I am who I am today, and my identity has kind of been based along a lot of the journey and path that I have had to build resilience and overcome challenges and obstacles around a disability. So I was born legally blind and grew up in a little town in very outback New South Wales in Australia. So pretty much picture a picture of Australia, and I was pretty much bang in the middle of it, out with the red dirt and the kangaroos hopping around pretty much. So it was a very interesting place to grow up. I did eventually travel to do university in the city. I went to Sydney to do university, and traveled across there. I just literally turned 18 a week before I put myself on the train and traveled to the big city to do my social work degree. And I think my story is that when I was about 16, I kind of had a bit of an epiphany. And, like many of those points in life where you get to those crossroads, you've got that choice as to, go one way or the other. And at that stage, I had really lost my sense of direction a lot, in terms of really didn't know what I could offer the world, and was, quite depressed actually as a teenager, when I look back on it now. And that moment came when I realized, well, I can keep on sort of feeling sorry for myself, or I can use my own challenges to help other people. And that was the moment where I decided that, okay, well, I could do a social work degree and then go ahead and start helping other people. And so that's kind of what has brought me to where I am today, is that journey of helping others, along with, doing my own thing in the background, I guess.
That's such a good one. At 16, you made that U-turn. So what would you say was the source of inspiration for you then to then actually choose what you chose to say, okay, this is how I think I can serve my world?
The story goes that, look, I probably was, what these days kids would be classified as being clinically depressed. But of course, back in those days, gosh, it sounds like I'm a million years old, like a dinosaur, but not quite that bad. But, back in, I guess it was the 90s, you weren't really protected as much as our youth is today. And I guess we're much more aware, but unfortunately, there was a lot of schoolyard bullying going on. I was still kind of carving out an identity due to my disability. I had the loss of a parent in those years as well. My dad passed away very unexpectedly, and there was a lot of bits and pieces that went along with that in terms of responsibility. And so I kind of got to that point where I was really struggling, and I had to give a presentation on a chosen subject for school. And I decided that, after a conversation that we'd had in one of my classes, that youth suicide was actually something that really, maybe was affecting me, but potentially could be affecting my other classmates as well. And so I went and presented myself to the welfare teacher and said, hey, I'd like to learn about suicide. And he just kind of looked at me, and he obviously had clued in that something wasn't quite right. And he said to me, do you want this for yourself or for somebody else? And I kind of looked at him and pondered it for a moment. And that was the moment where I went, yeah, this is not just about me. It's potentially about somebody else that I can help. And I said, yep, I feel pretty rubbish. But you know what? If I am, there's probably other people with other stuff going on that I don't know about. And maybe I can help somebody else. And that was the moment.
Wow. And so your teacher helped you, guide you in that direction, right?
I think it was just that literally just being in the right place and asking the right question at the right time. And I think quite often we have those circumstances where that's that person that we come across that either, gives us a piece of good advice or supports us when we really need it, or sometimes gives us bad advice that then we choose not to take. Whatever it is, I think quite often we have that one person who has met us at that crossroads in life, and actually, without even realizing it, quite often given us that guiding hand that we needed to make the decision to move forward.
Fantastic. God bless him, your teacher, that is. So since you made that U-turn and, you started to say, okay, this is not just about me. If I'm able to help, others, then I will feel more fulfilled. What has the journey been for you since then? Has there been times that you want to give up, or has there been times that you're like, what's the point? What's the point of doing this? Like, have there been experiences that you've had on your journey so far that kind of wanted to stop you from doing what you're doing? Or has it always been, you know what? Yes, you've gotten all the support, always like, let's go, let's do this. Let's save the world.
You know what? I wish, yeah. I wish that every day I could wake up and be, whoa, yay, it's great. Everyone, the sun's shining, everything's fantastic. That's totally unrealistic. None of us can live a life like that. I think what I do have is I've got a very strong stubborn streak, which probably, puts me in good stead for sort of, not giving up when I ideally could or sometimes should. And I think also just having that can-do attitude and that resilient nature I think has, and it's probably a lot of influence about the way that I was brought up, and just sort of that theory of just get along with it. I was never really wrapped in cotton wool as a child. I was sort of sent out there with all of my my peers to do the things that everybody else did. And that was probably part of growing up in such a remote location was, there were no special circumstances. It was all just get in and do it. And I think that has related a lot to my attitude for the rest of my life. And of course, we all have those big challenges. Like I've been divorced. My children had, at times decided to live with their dad instead of me for various reasons, or the decision was made when they were quite young that, it was the best choice at the time for them due to, our care arrangements. And so, that was really tough being separated from my kids for a long time. And moving from another city. So I moved from Sydney to Melbourne, and I guess, reestablishing family and, those networks and those connections and friends. Yeah. And of course, the older you get, sometimes the harder it is to make those new connections. And of course, there's been times where, I have really struggled. And, one of those times more recently was during COVID. And as the rest of the world has probably heard, like Melbourne was a lockdown, capital for a long time. And so, we had to learn to adjust. And one of my things is that I like being really, really busy. And, during some of the COVID period of lockdown, we were actually moving house. And so, there was something happening all of the time because I was sort of arranging things and organizing things. And all of a sudden that happened. And then I was like, well, even though I'm still working and doing a few other bits and pieces, I was still a little bit lost. And I was sort of starting to feel myself plunging down into that, that place where, you're not so happy. And I thought, okay, well, I have the responsibility to change that. And so I just went and added a whole stack of activities that I could still do to my agenda and topped up the calendar and, back on track.
Oh, wow. So how do you then cope? Because from what I hear you say, like you said, you love to do a lot of activities, like you love to be busy. So how do you unwind then? How do you, just kind of balance it so that you're not overworked? Because being overworked as well is a thing, right? As being like idle. So how do you balance it?
You know what? Like, I think I balance it by doing those things that I mentioned earlier. So reading and listening to music. Sometimes I will just spend a whole day just reading books. And, I might do that for, maybe a whole weekend sometimes. And nice. That's perfectly okay. And then other times, look, I'm not a TV watcher. So, there's some people that will sit down and, binge on Netflix for a weekend. Yeah. That's not me. But you could give me, 3 novels to read for the weekend and I'd be just as happy. So, it just works out to be, what ticks your box. And I think finding that and then really making sure that you incorporate that into your life. And no matter how busy or challenging you make the rest of your life, as long as you're still doing things that you love, then it doesn't seem to be particularly stressful, I don't think.
Absolutely. That's the right thing. That's just so true. Like when you do what you love, it doesn't become stress at all because like you're just having fun. Even right. in stress, even when it is very, like you have a very tight schedule, but because it is what you love, you just find strength to keep going. And that's why it is important to go after what we love, what we're passionate about, so that we're able to, on those days where you don't feel like getting off bed, you just still find some strength to get up and do what you need to do. So how are you currently impacting your world? I know you're sharing your story to inspire lives, but what are some other things that you do that people can benefit from you right now?
Yeah. So I run a life coaching business as well as the inspirational speaking. So that's helping people generally one-on-one. I do some group work, but mostly it's just one-on-one, and identifying what's getting them stuck in life and then how they can move on and achieve their goals and dreams as well. Because, I've been given these resources and these tools to be able to help other people, I guess, work out what their tools and resources are. And so that's really one of the things. And one of the other things that I'm doing is I've been very blessed in that I was approached to be the disability advocate for our local motor transport. I actually work for the Department of Transport here in Victoria, and I was approached to be the disability advocate for the transport department, which means that I get to make change at a real grassroots level for other employees to make sure that their journey is a successful one through their employment. And also, because it's transport, I also get to influence things like our public transport system and the way that our roads and, some of our public sort of areas are designed and made inclusive and accessible as well. So that's really exciting that I get to sort of, promote those big picture things as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well done. Well done. So what would you say to parents, for example, who have special need kids? Because you yourself, you're a parent and you can relate with some of the struggles, but I know it's a bit reversed on your case, but what would you say to parents, who have kids with special needs?
I think the most important thing is to have a support network. Do your research, find other people in the same situation so you can bounce ideas off of it. Because, if you're just relying on Google for all of your answers or relying on what your medical professionals are telling you, then, maybe they're not all the answers. I think sometimes lived experience from other people is the best way to go. And, they might not have the right answers for you. Of course, every situation is individual, but to be able to network and set up that support. So when you're having a really difficult time, you've got those supports in place to be able to go, hey, look, this happened, and have a bit of a laugh over whatever that situation is, or a cry, whatever it happens to be.
Exactly.
And then just be able to move on and go, okay, yep, I'm not in this alone. And I think that's the first thing. So from a self-care perspective, and I think it's really important to not put your own expectations onto your children, to let them have their own dreams, their own aspirations. And, sometimes you might need to give them a bit of a reality check, but to not reel it in so far that they don't actually get to go and experience the world, because that's how we all learn. That's how we all grow. And I think, sometimes having a disabled child is then you just want to protect them. You want to keep them safe.
Yeah.
As any parent will want to do with their child. But I think you need to let them experience the world, let them make their mistakes, let them fall over and pick themselves up again and learn a little bit of the world, because eventually they're going to have to go and deal with the world. And so the more resilience they've built, the better.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really important. And, even this actually applies to even parents generally, whether your kids are, special needs or not, just guiding them, just be a guide and don't try to cap them or try to fix them in a box and say, this is what you should do, or this is what you shouldn't do, or show them the signs, okay, this are some things you can do. These are the consequences if you act that way, and then you make your choice, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So
I'm here to support you, even if it does go wrong. Don't be afraid to then come to me and say, hey, it went wrong. I need some help to get out of whatever the situation is and get back on track again. I think open communication is really, really important, especially as your kids get older.
When they get older and want to have a mind of their own. I'm glad that you plugged that in, because a lot of parents don't take cognizance of that, especially in Africa. The fact that, I will support you even when it goes wrong. No, it's I told you so. And
it's reflecting back. We were all there one time, and sometimes it's very hard to remember that we were all there making those same mistakes, and the consequences of that, and how you felt when you didn't get that support, or that parent did say, I told you so, and that was the repercussions. It's okay, well, we have the opportunity to act differently, and to consciously do that is really important.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Fiona, for availing your time to be here. What will be your last word for anyone listening? Now I'm going to give you like three in one. Three in one. I need you to speak to your young people, and I need to speak to moms because you're a mom yourself. And so that the mom is two in one itself. So mom and women. So what will be your word for them? For the young ones and for mom and women.
Be kind to yourself. We are all so caught up in comparisons and needing to be like this and needing to do this and needing to, be something that we're not. Just be your authentic self, acknowledge that, and be kind, and stop all that negative self-talk in your head that keeps on telling you that you can't do these things and you're not good enough. You are good enough. You are strong enough. And, sometimes we need to, venture through those bumps in the road to find the highs at the top of the mountain.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was really, really strong. Yes. Be yourself. Like nobody else is you in the whole wild world. So be yourself. Yep. Come through with your authentic self and just, learn as you grow. Yes, there will be errors, there will be mistakes, but you can always, walk through it when you are your authentic self, because then you're able to attract the type of help and support system that you need because you are yourself. Okay. Thank you so much one more time, Fiona, for being here, guys. If we want to connect with Fiona, say, I know you mentioned, you're now, you coach and you're an advocate. Say somebody wants to, look into your work or see how they can collaborate with you on, your journey and what you're doing. How can they do that?
Okay. So one of the best places to connect with me is on my website. So www.fionademark.com.au. And the other thing that I'm trying to pump at the moment, and like this is a bit of a learning experience because I'm obviously of a generation that didn't take like a duck to water with Instagram, but I'm trying to promote my Instagram, which is Fiona Demark Blind Inspiration. And that's just a snippet into my life. So you get to see all the crazy stuff that I get up to and to try to break that mold of, what people have an expectation that people with disabilities can and can't do. And just to share a little bit of, beautiful living the way in my authentic life. And so you get to experience some of the little things. Like I went for a run this morning at 6:00. So it was dawn here. And where I go is in the national park, only about 15 minutes away from my house. And I had my trainer film some kangaroos that were eating their breakfast. So,
oh, nice. I can't wait to go watch that now. All right. So I'm going to drop the links to Fiona's website and to her Instagram page. Please do follow Fiona on her Instagram page and engage with her. Get a sneak peek into her daily life and how she's, just being her authentic self. And I believe that you will be inspired. Okay. So thank you so much for being here on the show today. Till I come your way again next week with another beautiful woman sharing her story and how she's currently impacting her world. I am the energetic EJ, and it is bye-bye from here.